Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. Some paranormal experiences in my childhood home. Warning, long post. This was originally a reply to a post on r Reddit about paranormal experiences that I made a couple of hours ago. The question led me to looking up paranormal and finding this subreddit. This is a copy-paste of my earlier comment. After reading some of these posts, I figure someone here may be interested enough to read it. Growing up, my house was haunted. Just to preface, we moved into my childhood home when I was in the 2nd grade. My parents transferred with their jobs and we went from a big city into a small, rural town. They wanted us to grow up in a nicer area. Haha. My mother has a history of paranormal encounters since she was a child. Not sure if this is relevant, but we have strong Native American ancestry. And when we initially came to check out the house, we stayed in a local Motel 6. My mother told me that after we had visited the house and had headed back to sleep at the Motel 6, she woke up in the dead of the night and had an instinctual urge to check on me. She said that she saw a dark figure just standing over me while I was sleeping on the bed. After a few moments, she said that it almost seemed to notice her noticing and standing there, and it disappeared. Years later, my mother told me she had a dream in which her mother visited her. My grandmother passed away before 2001, if I'm not mistaken. I was too young to have anything but fleeting memories of her. Sadly, she often spoke about how her mother had visited her in dreams before, but never once she had spoken to her. My grandmother was always silent in her dreams. One dream in particular though, my mother said her mom showed up in her dream, pointed towards my room down this long hallway we had, and said one thing: "That room is haunted." I don't particularly hold a lot of faith in dreams myself, but when it comes to my mother, I understand that she doesn't BS me with stuff like that. Whether it had a meaning or not, the message hit the mark. On one occasion, I was getting ready for school in the morning back in the 8th grade. Class started at 8:30 a.m. for me, plus my sister was in the 9th grade and her school started at 8 a.m. sharp. My dad had left with my sister to get her to school on time, leaving only myself and my mother in the home. My mother was working graveyard shifts at the time, so she was in her room sleeping up on the 2nd floor, which was on the opposite end of the house. I was basically alone. I was standing in the bathroom brushing my teeth when I heard my dog walking into the bathroom. When I turned to greet him, a woman moved right by the open door. Not an ethereal being or a shadow, she looked to be a flesh and blood woman. I skid you not. I can still remember everything about how she looked. She had auburn brown hair that went down just past her freckled shoulders. She was wearing a white nightgown that ended right above her knees, and it had a sort of lace pattern for the shoulder straps, plus lining the bottom. She was a white woman, but had a slight tan, maybe her mid-30s up to mid-50s if I had to guess her age. The weirdest part was she wasn't walking. She sort of just floated past the door, and her legs faded out into nothingness. I could see her knees lax, but once you go halfway down her calves, there was just nothing there. No signs of ambulation, just floating past. I could have easily mistaken this incident for an actual human being breaking into my house and walking around, had it not been for the disturbing manner in which she moved. Worst part is, she was going right towards the direction of my bedroom. My room was maybe 3 or 4 feet away from my bathroom. The bathroom was halfway down the hallway. I pretty much sat there in the bathroom with my dog until my father got home, and I didn't tell my parents for at least a month. Another time, I was sleeping on my living room couch back in high school. I pretty much slept on the couch through high school. I had too many strange occurrences to warrant sleeping in my bedroom. When I heard someone or something walk from my kitchen into my living room. I'm talking about hearing the weight of the footsteps on different surfaces, laminate flooring in the kitchen. It walked right up to the side of the couch and just stood there. I could literally feel a presence right there, almost like when an individual is standing super close to you but not touching you, yet somehow you can still physically feel them. Imagine standing in a crowded train on the subway where everyone is just packed in, the way you can feel the crowd, even though nobody is actually touching you. I guess that's how I describe it. I couldn't tell you what it was. I kept my eyes closed the whole time. All I can say was I had a really bad feeling about that energy. I had never felt anything like it. It was offensive. It definitely unsettled me. 3rd different occasion here, but one time my entire family had gone to the movie theater and I was home alone. I had been in my room playing Modern Warfare 2 with some friends online, and I had a headset on, meaning I could hardly hear anything aside from the game chat. I had the volume just low enough as to be able to know when they got home. I thought I had heard what sounded like my front door slam, the way the house sort of reverberates, and people talking. I looked towards my bedroom door and could see the light from the kitchen through the crack at the bottom. As I looked at it, I could see what looked like someone walking through the kitchen, in the way that someone walking in front of a light source will cast a shadow. I figured they must have arrived back home, so I took off the headset, walked out of my room and said, "Hey, how was the movie?" Nobody was home. Safe to say that freaked me out a bit, but I had somewhat grown accustomed to freaky things happening in that house. I just sat back down and continued playing, LOL. When in doubt, ignore it, LMAO. I continued to see the shadows moving in the kitchen and heard movement until they got back from the movies maybe an hour later. We did have animals at the time, at least 2 dogs and a cat, but I could easily tell the difference between their shadows and a human shadow. Plus, they usually stayed on the opposite end of the house when my folks weren't home. I had too many smaller incidents to count throughout the years. A few times, I'd be sat in my living room with a friend and we'd both hear something heavily walking down the set of stairs that were no more than 6 feet away from us, or hearing my name being called, etc. But these were some of the more in-your-face events I've experienced that I can't explain. I'm not religious, so I don't particularly believe in angels and demons and souls being trapped and everything else associated with the stereotypical image of a ghost. But I'm damn sure there is some skit out there we haven't figured out yet. If you ask me, there are definitely energies that are benevolent, malevolent, but what those energies are, I couldn't tell you. Thank you, J. Seaver01, the author. Please don't leave me alone in the dark. My boyfriend, his dog, and I had just moved into our first place together. It was a duplex house and we lived upstairs in a 1-bedroom unit. We had barely lived there a month when my boyfriend got a new job. His new job had him working 3rd shift. He would leave at 11:30 p.m. each night and not return home until 8:30 a.m. Prior to this, I had never spent a night alone before. I grew up in a multi-generational household, so growing up, I always had someone in the house with me. I didn't think it would be an issue though. I have never been afraid of the dark, loved scary movies and haunted houses. The first few weeks were uneventful. My boyfriend would leave while I was asleep and he would return as I was getting ready to go to my job. Then one night, I was woken up and I felt scared. Really scared. I felt like something was standing outside my bedroom door. I looked over and saw my boyfriend was gone already. I tried to move, but I was frozen. I was unable to roll over to look at the bedroom door. I sensed that someone had entered the room with me, but I hadn't heard the door open. Our dog, who slept in the living room, was going crazy, snarling and barking. Hearing my dog go crazy scared me even more. I began to panic more as I heard something banging on the bedroom door and then silence again. I didn't know for how long I stayed like that, minutes or hours. I eventually was able to move again. I lunged for the bedroom light and stared at the door. I grabbed a metal bat and flung the door open. Nothing. My dog was on the sofa and he was calm. I must have imagined it all. I laughed at myself. I was being ridiculous. I didn't tell my boyfriend about it. I figured it was a one-time occurrence. I was wrong. Every night when my boyfriend left, the same thing happened. I would be frozen with fear as I felt something outside the bedroom door. I would hear my dog go crazy in the living room. I read online that it was sleep paralysis. It was all imaginary. Okay, I had nothing to fear. I read on an online forum that the best thing to do was to relax and let your body go limp. I tried it and it worked. I would become unstuck and run for the light. The nightmare would end. The issue was, it started to come into the room and get closer and closer to me. It became harder for me to relax through the mounting fear and panic. It was pure hell. I was terrified it was going to eventually reach me. I finally told my boyfriend I was having nightmares and asked him to please let our dog into the room before he left. I didn't tell him how bad the dreams were. I just said, please don't forget. Please don't leave me alone in the dark. He started letting my dog in with me. The nightmare would start and my dog would be next to me and start his barking and growling. The comfort of having my dog allowed me to get unfrozen immediately when the nightmare started. The thing wouldn't get past the door before I turned on the lights. I felt so much better. Then one night, my boyfriend woke up late and forgot to let our dog into the room with me. The nightmare started and I was alone. Realizing I was completely alone, I panicked horribly. The thing came into the room and I was frozen. I closed my eyes trying to relax, but I couldn't. It got closer and closer until it was right next to me. Suddenly, my dog burst through the door, snarling and barking. I was able to shoot out of bed and run out of the house with my dog. My mom lived 2 miles away. I walked with my dog at 1 a.m. all the way to her house. Me and my dog went to sleep there every night after that. My boyfriend said we should move and see if that helped me. He got his cousin and girlfriend to move in and take over our lease. In our new place, I no longer had sleep paralysis. I was so relieved. Months later, his cousin told my boyfriend that when his girlfriend goes out of town and he has to sleep alone at home, he has a scary dream where something is trying to get into the room with him. He dared his friend to sleep there alone, and the same thing happened to his friend. They made their whole friend group try it. All 5 of them said they felt a presence. My boyfriend's cousin still lives there, but the cousin has forbade his girlfriend from leaving him alone overnight. Thanks for reading. This is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. Note, I will say I don't think all his friends actually experienced the sleep paralysis. I think they just went in being scared and the next morning said they felt a presence. I don't think they actually did though. Only my boyfriend's cousin and one of the friends actually described exactly what I went through. Thank you Mezamik 000, the author. Thank you for watching everyone. If you already haven't, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any new episodes. See you again soon, and until then, please, be safe.